Come and take a look at this. I'm a gear tester and I've never seen anything like this before in putting, and I think it might just change the putting game. Let me introduce you to the Sausage Golf Boudin Noir putter. Right, so what am I talking about? What is the Sausage Golf Boudin Noir? Well, essentially, what we've got here is a putter that's kind of broken social media lately. I've never had so many people contact me with DMs and renders and pictures of this putter saying, make sure you review this, we want to know what it's all about. And essentially what we've got is the first that I've seen modular putter. So we've got a putter here that's got little gaps in the head that you can unscrew and rescrew to make this putter low torque, face balanced and toe hang. And not only that, you can flip it around and do the same left-handed. This thing's absolutely incredible. Now, Sausage Golf's a bit of a strange name, I hear you say. So where's that come from? Well, the founder and the designer of Sausage Golf is a man called Dave Rolls, and he came from Manchester, and people in Manchester have a very good sense of humour. So he was called Sausage Rolls at school, hence the name Sausage Golf. Now, he originally designed this putter as a bit of an experiment because him and his dad wanted to share a putter and he wanted to do something nice for his dad who'd helped him out over the years. And this is how all this started. And he hit upon something and he's just sausage rolled with it. And it's gone on and on and on to see what we've got in front of us today. And I'm really impressed and I'm really excited to give this a whirl. Right, come a bit closer for this bit. I need to show you what I mean. So what we've got on the top here, you'll notice when you look a little bit closely, there's a few little rectangular pieces, and underneath we've got a little screw set up here. So you unscrew these pieces, little bits slot out, and then it kind of works like a little jigsaw puzzle. You move the pieces to where you need them to be to create the gap for where you want this shaft to enter the head. And then you've got your three different torque profiles. It really is incredibly impressive. And I'm intrigued to see how that mechanism works as we go through the video, because I've got my sort of, not skepticism, but I want to know how quickly and how easily it works and how tight the fit is, more to the point, because we don't want any gaps in these putters. So let me hit a few putts away and let's start to get some initial impressions before we start moving things about. So first impressions are really genuinely quite good. I thought I'd left that short then. It's an incredibly premium looking putter. I love what they've done here with the kind of premium all blacked out, murdered out look, which I think is really cool. So we've got a little black pistol grip with sausage sort of emblazoned there, and really subtly, but you can still see it. A nice matte black shaft into the all black head, bar the alignment aids. And the alignment aids are really nice, bright white, which pops really well against the black. So we've got one across the top edge, which is really helpful for those who use the sort of leading edge of the putter to line things up. We've also got one on the back here to help with those people who are used to kind of a flange line and do their aiming with that. And there's a little dot as well, which helps you center the ball in the face, and also has a little benefit when we start moving it into different settings, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But even just on that first putt I've hit there, the feel it's a very familiar one to me, because I use a lab putter, and this is made out of the same 6061, I think that's right, aluminium or aluminum for our US viewers there. And it really feels very similar to all the labs, like my Mez Max that I've been using for the last few weeks. What I would say is there is slightly more, maybe ring or ting to it at strike. There's a little bit more vibration, which isn't a bad thing at all. It actually feels really nice, and I'm guessing that's probably something to do with the slots. As tight as these are and as beautifully engineered and as the fit is great, just creating any sort of air gaps might create that little bit more vibration and feedback up the shaft. But it's something that I really like the feel of. Super easy to line up. Like I said, those alignment aids really pop, and the kind of the lines and the curves are really soft. A lot of the time when you get on even some of the better mallet putters on the market, you see very sharp angles between the top edge and the sides. They've rolled and softened these edges really nicely, and it gives it a beautifully rounded and soft feel, even from the top edge here into the face. Quite often that's just a sharp, straight right angle. They've softened that nicely and it really looks good. So let me hit a couple more. I've got it in the, what they call the low torque setting. It's not zero torque, but it's low torque. And it does feel incredibly stable. Like I said, off the face, it does feel familiar, but it's got that, just that little bit of pop at strike, and the roll seems to be really good. We've got some grooves on the face here to really help with that roll. So yeah, initial impressions, feels premium, looks great, easy to line up. let's get into moving it about and see what this modular stuff's all about. Just as a quick reference point for those who may not know, so I mentioned this is in the low torque or zero torque setting, and if you've seen lab putters, you'll be familiar with that technology where you're controlling with weights in the head and the shaft entry point of the torque profile or toe hang or lack of toe hang of this putter. So if I just hold this putter unaided in that low torque setting, you see how the toe kind of points up to the sky. Now that makes the putter in essence want to orientate very square to your path. So there's not going to be much opening and closing on that. It doesn't require any manipulation to square the face. You're better off leaving the face alone in that setting. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take it out of that lie angle balanced or low torque setting, if you like, and I'm going to move it into what we call a more face balance. It's going to be more traditional center shafted putter. So let's see how easy this is. I'm going to kneel down because I know these screws come out. So I'm going to initially take the shaft out. So we've got 2 screws to do that. Get the bulk of it done with a wrench. One comes out. I've got a few screws to work with, so I'm going to have to lay them on the ground. Second screw out. I can already feel the shaft loosening, which is kind of weird and cool. That should be nearly there now. So there we go. That's the shaft that comes out of the head. We've got little screw holes in the bottom, and then we just got our little sausage head where the screw's just fallen out, where I just unscrewed it. And we've got some gaps to fill here. So what I need to do now is take this centerpiece out, pop it in where that shaft was, and swap the shaft over. So I mean, it's not the quickest job in the world, but it's not, you know, it's not exactly, let's be patient. We're all things in the modern world, we want them straight away, but let's just be a little patient and see what we get. 2 screws again. I just think it's really cool. I just think it's so cool to be able to just create 3 separate putters. Well, actually 6 when we talk about left-handed in a minute, from one putter. So there goes the centerpiece out. So then we've got a head now that's got 2 gaps. We need to refill them. So we're going to move the shaft one into the front. I'm just going to clean a little bit of sand off that because I don't want that getting in there. I'm going to move the shaft into the front. Just a perfect tight fit. There's no wobble at all. That's beautifully engineered. That's incredibly well done. That would be my concern, that there'd be sort of significant gaps and wobbling, etc. But that's brilliantly well done. Let's get those screws back in there. So what do you reckon? What have we got, about a minute for that so far, I reckon? Not too bad. That's the second screw done up. Slot our little modular piece back in, so we just got our little gap to fill there. Slot that modular piece back in. Couple of screws again and we're away. So I would say if you're, it's a bit moist and dewy out here today, and these greens have had a little bit of top dressing, I think. So I've got a few grains of sand. So I think if you're doing this, if you do get one of these putters, I'd just be a little bit cautious about popping the modular piece in with any grains of sand in. You don't want any scratching or anything going on there. So just give it a little wipe before you do so. And that is that. I've now got a face balanced center shafted putter to have a little whirl with. Probably, I don't know, minute and a half. So when I hold this unaided on my hand there, finger, face points perfectly up to the sky, so that's a perfectly face balanced putter. So if you're a tinkerer who wants to try these things, fantastic, you can do that in 2 minutes, but you eliminate all the variables. We've got the same swing weight, we've got the same head weight, we've got the same alignment aids, the same grip, the same length. All variables are eliminated. We've just got 2 completely different torque profiles. Let's hit a couple of putts and see how we get on. But one thing I should have mentioned that cameraman Dan pointed out very well there is when it's in that previous low torque or nearly zero torque profile, you do require a 2-degree forward press, and that's why they put this little white mark on the grip and the leading edge line there on the face. You've got to get those lined up for it to play its true loft. If you played that with a straight up shaft, you'd have an awful lot of loft. So you've got to factor that in if you're in that zero torque or low torque setting, as Sausage Golf call it. Something that is worth noting, this is something I've absolutely loved about this putter from a feel point of view, it's quite heavy in the head. So all these extra screws and bits that are required to make it modular brings this head weight up to 365 grams. And most modern day putters come in around the 350 mark. So that kind of 365 number, if you prefer a heavy feel and a bit of stability in your putter, you're going to really like this, like I do. We're in the face balance one now, so let's hit a couple of these longer putts just down the slope here. I have to say it sits brilliantly. Quite often with putters you get some doming or some raised spots. This is just like a perfectly flat head, and it just looks like it's sort of glued to the ground. It sits beautifully, and the sole, quite often you get a little bit of wobble and a bit of twisting when it hits the ground. I'm seeing nothing of that. Where I put this down and aim it, and then I can build my stance, there's no twisting or wobbling, which is really, really nice to see. Again, just that little bit of a pop, that little bit of a ting off the face. That's nicely red. That's a good start. That looks really good in that setting. I wouldn't say, maybe I'm not precise enough with my feels, I wouldn't say I'm feeling, even over this length of putt, a massive difference in torque profiles here. And there's not too much between a low torque and a face balanced putter. They're both, the principles are to try and keep that face relatively square, and they're for strokes that don't have an awful lot of arc or opening and closing to them. So there's not masses in between them, but it has dramatically changed the look. And I would have to say, I think I much prefer it in this pure face balance setting with the shaft looking straight up and down. And those are three pretty solid putts. It'd be nice to hole one. There you go, so that's a good finish. So that's it in the face balance setting. Let's see what we can do in the toe hang setting, and then I want to give you some thoughts about where I think we're heading with this and the type of people it could help. Right, sorry to interrupt the sausage party on Saunton's putting green. If you are enjoying this video, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, it really helps us, and comment down below, what do you think about this whole sausage golf revolution? So we're going to try it in that third setting now, which is going to be heel shafted. You've seen it took me a couple of minutes to do from the low torque to the centre shafters. I won't put you through watching me screw and unscrew these things again. But how that's going to work is I'm going to use the two screws in the centre here that are holding the shaft in place at the moment, take the shaft out. We've got this little tiny little block there, which I think you can probably see because the cameraman's brilliant. And then we're going to nudge that across. That's going to sit over here, which creates more space for the shaft to go in on the heel here. And then I've got a heel shafted putter with, I'm going to say, I reckon about 45 degrees of toe hang. So let's have a look at that. Right, so that is it in the toe hang position, or the heel shafted position, whatever you want to call that. So when we again do that same test, we're going to hold it unaided there. You can probably see down the lens, I'd say it's around that 45-degree toe hang. So this should, in theory, suit people who have a little bit more arc and rotation to their stroke. It will just want to move with you a little bit more. So let's hit a few putts and see how it feels in that orientation. It is really strange just having what is essentially the same putter. I know it's the same putter because it's not left my hands, and just seeing it in a completely different orientation there looking down, whilst the head looks the same. Obviously that shaft's going in a very different place. And even on that first putt, and that one in particular, I can actually genuinely feel some torque profile there of some opening and closing of the face. That's something probably wouldn't suit me. I'm somebody who likes to feel that square to square ish style stroke. I know it's never square to square, but I like to feel sort of minimal rotation stability, and that is just really, really cool. Left it in the jaws there. I can hear a couple of people at home, and I know some of my putting coach friends who will be screaming at the TV going, what's the point? That's frivolous. All these golfers have got a torque profile. If you go to a custom fitting, they will suit either toe hang, either zero torque or face balance. But I'm of a different set of beliefs. So they'll be thinking, what is the point in having a putter you can move into 3 different orientations when you should, in theory, just have one torque profile that suits your stroke? I'm of a completely different set of beliefs. I don't believe someone's torque profile or their putting stroke necessarily is like their DNA or their fingerprints. These things are malleable. They move a little bit over time. We're humans, and strokes change and people change. So I think having the ability to create, like I said, eliminate those variables and create essentially 3 different putters, but with the same basic specifications of length, of lie angle, of swing weight, all that stuff, is an incredibly valuable tool. Just look at people like Tommy Fleetwood, Justin Rose. Fleetwood's been through a number of different putter head styles and torque profiles over the last couple of years, but specifically this year, before landing in the Spider that he's just used at the Ryder Cup to hold putts all over the place. And I doubt that'll be the end of his putting journey. Rose is trying a different torque profile almost every week. These people want to change these things, and this is a brilliantly, potentially cost-effective way of doing that. So you're not having to buy different torque profiles. You can create what you want out of this putter. And let's be honest, who of us out there haven't had one of those putting days where you just think, oh, I need to change something, I need to freshen it up, but you don't have another putter. Some people even change grips overnight, do all sorts of things. What you've got here is the opportunity to stay in the putter you've been using, maintain that sort of feel, all the swing weights, all those variables that I've spoken about, but just freshen up the feel and the look slightly. What a brilliant way of being able to do that without doing anything too radical. So I've gone into this toe hang here. If I'm struggling on that, which I have been over the last couple of days, I've been playing a tournament here on the greens, you know, just get the wrench out the night before this round that I've got coming up today, go into a slightly different torque profile, and who knows, there might be a bit of success around the corner. And let's be honest, who of you out there, now don't lie to me here, haven't thought after a round of golf, I could do better left-handed? Well, with the Sausage Golf, you've even got that option. I hope you've enjoyed that look at the Sausage Golf Boudin Noir. I've had loads of fun testing this out. As a gear tester, as I said, we see a lot of samey products from time to time. So to get something this different and this innovative is really exciting. I was just starting to think, looking around the putting green at this event I'm playing here, I'm still looking at ping answer style shapes that have been around for 50, 60 years. We've been through a big driver revolution with adjustable weights, loft sleeves, face angles. Have we exhausted that? And is it time? Is it the putter's time to get in that space of serious innovation and tech and adjustability? I certainly think so. I think this could be the start of something big. Let me know what you think in the comments down below.